perhaps as she comes to a better understanding of just how doomed she really is, all of those positive qualities disappear. She becomes more and more menacing and sinister and antagonistic, until finally she transforms into a horrific monster, all of her humanity torn away. Just like Pyramid Head and all of the other monsters throughout the game, Maria is something born of the strange and undefined spiritual power of Silent Hill, but she is also very different from all those others. The monsters of Silent Hill 2 are faceless, lacking individuality, and basically mindless. They do not appear to possess any true will of their own, whereas Maria seems to be an actual sentient living being with her own thoughts and feelings and fears and desires, even though those thoughts and feelings are all connected to James in some way. She is a doomed character, someone who will never have the chance to live a normal life, never get a chance to survive for longer than maybe a few hours at most. And when she realizes this, when she realizes that she is trapped, that she will never escape, that is when she finally transforms into this twisted monstrosity. At the end of the game, when she becomes this hideous nightmare creature, that is really her raging against the iron bars of her prison, against the horrific nature of her own existence. Because when James finally learns to let go, to embrace the truth, she is supposed to disappear or self-destruct in the same way that all the other manifestations of his guilt and shame do. But she refuses. She becomes angry and resentful. She decides that she is going to stick around. She will not let him move on. And that refusal is ultimately proof of her humanity and personhood. In this moment, maybe for the first time in the story, she is making a truly independent choice of her own personal free will. She is choosing to fight against her own fate, and there is nothing more human than that. So, Maria can be understood through her relationships with three other characters. First and most obviously, her relationship with James, which begins as playful, flirty, and openly seductive. She tries to play the role of damsel in distress to James' knight in shining armor. And she also plays the role of dark seductress, femme fatale. James has this morally pure goal of finding his lost wife, while Maria tries to lead him astray, to draw him off the righteous path, to tempt him with sinful pleasures like sex and alcohol. But all of these roles fall apart when they reach the hospital. As a manifestation of James' memories of his late wife, she is incapacitated by the same illness, and is later brutally killed by Pyramid Head. When she is reborn in the labyrinth, her behavior becomes far more menacing than it was before. She is jaded and cynical and sort of fairy-like here, unaffected by the grotesque and fantastical things happening all around her. A creature at home in the nightmare. This time she dies quietly off-screen of the same illness that killed Mary. And in the end, in her final scene, once again reborn, she becomes openly antagonistic. By refusing to fade away, she becomes the final obstacle James must overcome in order to escape from Silent Hill. Though that does depend on which ending we consider canon. I've always thought that the leave and in-water endings fit the themes of the story most appropriately, but the ending where Maria actually survives and leaves the town with him is really fascinating too, and we'll talk about that more later. Anyway, the second of Maria's defining relationships is with Laura. Maria and Laura never actually interact or even appear on screen together at the same time, but Maria's character is surprisingly focused on the girl. She spends a lot of time in this story attempting to find Laura so that she can protect her, so that Laura will not be alone. This reveals aspects of her character we never see in her interactions with James. She has these motherly and nurturing and benevolent qualities that she is never allowed to fully embrace. By the time she is reborn in the labyrinth, these motherly qualities have completely vanished. She no longer cares about Laura or anyone else. This relationship collapses before it ever really begins. The third and final defining relationship in her story is with Pyramid Head, which is a relationship entirely based on fear and pain and death. Pyramid Head kills her twice, and both times in brutal, terrifying, and horrific ways. It is this experience of death and terror that ultimately unravels her character, when she loses all of her more positive qualities, her playfulness and protectiveness. It is Pyramid Head who forces her to become the worst version of herself. A lot of fans talk about Pyramid Head as if he is this misunderstood guy who is just trying to help out. He is a benevolent guiding angel, leading James to let go of his denial and accept the truth. He is really just an avant-garde therapist with unconventional therapeutic techniques. But Maria, oh boy, she is the really bad one. She is the one you have to watch out for. She is the true monster of the story. I think this is an oversimplification of both characters and their roles in the story. Both Maria and Pyramid Head are manifestations of James' emotions, and because his emotions are complicated and contradictory, so are they. Maria is manipulative and defined by this inability to let go or move on, but also she is lonely and vulnerable in seeking companionship. Pyramid Head does end up helping James accept the truth, but he is also a creature whose entire existence is based on the emotions of guilt and fear and aggression and a desire for punishment. When he kills Maria, he is brutally murdering a sentient living person who does not deserve to be treated that way. Finally, there is also the Born of a Wish prologue chapter added in the definitive edition of the original game, but not included in the remake, or at least not as of the time this video is being posted. In that prologue, we see Maria before she meets James. She is a character who is utterly alone, trapped in a bizarre, surreal world full of monsters that she does not understand and cannot escape. She feels so lonely and so hopeless that she contemplates suicide, but ultimately chooses to live, to wait for James' arrival, for her one and only chance at companionship, which is all the more tragic because we, the audience, already know that relationship will never work out. That prologue paints her in a far more sympathetic light than the story of the main game. So what I want to do in this video is follow her story from beginning to end, to watch each scene to see how her character disintegrates over the course of the story, how she slowly loses everything and becomes this hopeless, menacing nightmare who refuses to allow James to escape at the end. Okay, let's start at the start with her introduction in Rosewater Park. We are going to watch that scene together, and as you watch, ask yourself, what are Maria's motivations, and how are the developers revealing those motivations to us? What does she want, and how do we know? Alright, here it is.
A colonizable planet
Mary?
has been discovered.
May we live beyond this next conquest.
More credits are required.
We're uncertain
No.
of our next move.
You're
More credits are required.
Is the Unity with us?
Do I look like your girlfriend?
This next conquest. This
No,
is our
my-
darkest hour.
Wait,
Civilians
wife.
complete.
I can't believe it. Your face, your voice, you could be.
My name is Maria.
Logistics upgrade complete.
I don't look like a ghost, do I? See? Warm.
Sorry, I got confused.
Hey. Where are you going?
I need to find Mary.
Is
Didn't you
this
say
the
she
path to
died?
vengeance?
Hostility research
Oh.
complete.
Unity, guide my hand to safety.
Yeah,
Is it
3 years ago. It's just I got a letter from her.
abandon me?
More credits
A
are
letter.
required.
I know how it sounds. I don't.
Hey. It's okay. So, what did the letter say?
She said she was waiting for me
Is it time?
in our special place.
And that's here?
Unleash our wrath.
Control room created.
Our voices speak as one.
Anyway,
Civilian
I
structure
haven't seen her.
complete.
Is this your only special place?
At last. Our voices speak as one.
I don't know anymore. There was
Hostility research complete.
something I can't quite.
Hey! I think I might know. I mean,
Control group
there's this one
created.
place. Not far from here.
What kind of place?
The unities will be done.
The kind two lovers might call special.
I can show you if you want. Unless you have somewhere else to be.
A colonizable planet has been discovered.
Something else to do.
Hostility
Hey,
research
easy there.
complete.
I'm just messing with you. Come on. It's this way.
You're coming with me? Can't you just tell me where it is?
Harmony research complete.
You're just gonna leave me here? Alone? With all these monsters around?
Hostility
No,
research
I
complete.
just.
Is it because I remind you of her? You loved her, didn't you?
We answer the call.
Control group created.
I think her motivations are very clear here. Maria wants James. She almost immediately hyper-focuses on him. She very quickly initiates physical contact. She is flirty and seductive. She is touchy and pushy. She distracts him, pulls him away from his journey to find his wife. At the end of the scene, when he gazes out across the lake, saying that he can almost remember something, that is him about to come to the realization that Mary is waiting for him at the hotel, or at least something related to Mary is waiting for him at the hotel. Notice the way Maria moves into center frame. The way she stands between him and his true destination, interrupts him before he can come to that realization, and instead leads him in the exact opposite direction. That final shot, which drifts over the lake and shows us the light on the other side, that is what she prevented him from seeing. And it does feel intentional. She is purposely attempting to insert herself as the new focal point of his journey to replace Mary. And in this first scene, there is definitely something subtly sinister and unsettling about her behavior. It is so inconsistent with everything else that is happening around them. Her behavior is just too ordinary in an extraordinary situation. By this point in the story, James has already encountered some really freaky and crazy and terrifying stuff. And then here is Maria acting like nothing is wrong, apparently just trying to get laid. All of the other characters we have met have been searching for something, been focused on their own goals, their own stories. Like Angela is focused on her mother, Eddie is looking for somewhere to run away to. But Maria has no reason to be in this town. She is only focused on James, and it's weird. And of course, all of that ignores the bizarre similarities between her and his dead wife. Even their names are eerily similar. So why? Why does she want James? Why is she trying so hard to distract him from his wife and get him to focus on her instead? Well, Maria is a manifestation of James' desires and emotions, of his psyche. He wants his wife back for her to live again, and so by the strange power of Silent Hill, here she is, returned to the flesh. But James' emotions are twisted and warped by anger and guilt and lust, and so this reborn version of his wife emerges from the fog twisted and changed too. More sexualized, more voluptuous, more selfish, more desperate for human contact. But let's look at this from Maria's perspective. What is going on in her head? Going forward, it will begin to become clear that a lot of her behavior is driven by instinct. To put it simply, she does what feels right. Silent Hill's Otherworld has manifested her to fulfill a particular role, and when she gets closer to that role, she seems to feel better. So she wants to be with James because that is where she is supposed to be. That is where she was born to be. And there's another motivation here too. Going forward, we will also learn that Maria is a genuinely lonely person. She wants companionship. She wants a relationship. She wants romance. She wants a family. She wants to be with others. She wants to be around both James and later Laura. Not all of her motivations are sinister. And as I said at the beginning of the video, without James, she would be completely isolated, completely alone forever. And I think that possibility really frightens her. Unfortunately for her, her seduction is not working here. Again and again, James refuses her advances. He does not want to go with her, and so she tries a different tactic. When he is about to leave without her, all of a sudden she acknowledges the existence of the monsters in the town and uses them as a way to bind James to her. She appeals to his sense of empathy. Would you really leave me alone here in this dangerous place? And finally, this one works. They leave together. The remake has added a ton of interactions between them during this section of the game that go a long way towards further developing her character. For example, in dialogue, she pushes James to talk about himself, to talk about his late wife. This is her trying to forge an emotional bond between them. She is playful. She makes a lot of jokes. She reacts to things in the environment or things he does, like when he breaks windows or when he falls into a stupor in the save menu. As I discussed earlier, she is the damsel in distress to his knight in shining armor. She behaves as if she is defenseless against these monsters, and he has to come to her rescue. This allows him to live out a certain type of fantasy. He is able to successfully protect her from monsters in a way he was never able to protect his wife from her illness. And she is still manipulative. When James begins walking towards the hotel, towards his true destination, she tries again and again to get him to turn around, to go where she wants instead. Finally, there is this moment when you examine a statue of a woman who is accused of unstated crimes and murdered by the people of Silent Hill in the past. James asks, "Who was she?" And Maria answers,
Feel our wrath.
Just a woman.
Is it time?
Killed
Without
for no
delay.
real fault of her own. By moral, upstanding
Awaiting
folk.
your will.
Common theme, I guess.
What do you mean?
Commencing
In
phase
history, you
jump.
know?
I am the
I think it's
Unity
clear that
servant.
Maria identifies with this woman, that she feels as if she is being persecuted for no fault of her own, that she feels as if she has done nothing wrong and is being punished unfairly. It is important to remember that Maria did not choose to be born. She did not choose to be a facsimile of James' dead wife. She was forced into this situation. In some ways, she is doing the only thing she can do, given her circumstances. Next, she leads James to the Heaven's Night strip club, where she apparently works as a stripper, again connecting her character to the themes of sexuality and lust. In the original game, the characters quickly pass through this location without stopping, but in the remake, the developers have added a whole new scene. We are going to watch it together, and as we do, we are going to play a game. This is by far Maria's most manipulative scene in the story. I have identified at least 5 different methods of manipulation she attempts to use, 5 distinct strategies to distract him and seduce him. Only one of those 5 strategies seems to have any real effect on James though. So as you watch, see if you can find all 5, and for bonus points, figure out which one actually worked. Okay, here it is.
Is it time? As you wish.
The auction prize belongs to you.
What? Oh, come on, don't give me that look.
Commencing phase jump. What's on your mind?
I was just kidding.
Without delay.
Then again, now that we're here,
Our armor is breached.
can't we stay
Upgrade complete.
Strike.
just for a little while?
Speak.
Catch our breath before we head back out?
I don't have time to take a break.
Defilers and
Mary could be out there, waiting for me.
I know.
Whenever you wish.
It's just this place, this whole thing. It's like a nightmare. I just wanted to get away from it, even for a second. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Sorry, I didn't mean to. guess this place is getting to me, too. Am I crazy?
Retribution is ours.
Hostility
You know,
research
for
complete.
thinking she could
Is
be
it
here.
time?
Control group created.
Crazy is one word for it, I guess.
Our voices speak as one. Vengeance
I
is
can
at
think of
hand.
another.
Vengeance is at hand.
And what's that?
Hopeful.
Harmony research complete.
Well, that's a nicer way of putting it.
Here.
What are you doing?
Something to take the edge off.
What's on your mind?
No?
Guide me.
You sure? Fine. Be that way. Here's to...
Unity has fallen silent on one of our planets. Another planet joins the Unity.
to hope. I'm dying.
Research complete.
The first method can be seen when she comes out on stage, grabs the pole, and does a little spin. This is manipulation by sexuality, and when it fails, when James does not show any interest, she plays it off as a joke and moves on to the next. Next, she attempts manipulation by appealing to his need for rest. What if we just stop and rest for a minute, just for a little while? Take the load off, man. And again, it fails. James wants to go find his wife right now. He does not have time for relaxation. And then Maria attempts manipulation by damsel in distress, by appealing to his sense of empathy, his protectiveness. Oh, I'm just a scared little delicate flower who cannot defend herself, lost in a dangerous world, overwhelmed by stress, in need of a big strong man to help me. Oh no! She even pretends to be on the verge of tears, tears which suspiciously disappear only moments later. This is the manipulation strategy that works. This is the one that gets James to pause, to focus on her. Somewhere at his core, James is a protective type of personality. He wants to help others. The next is manipulation by adulation. This is one I discussed in detail back in my video on Odin from God of War Ragnarok. One of Odin's most effective manipulation techniques was heaping a mixture of exaggerated criticism and compliments upon other characters. Compliments are a really easy way to get other people to like you, and that is what Maria is doing when James asks her, "Am I crazy?" And she gazes longingly into his eyes and says, "No, you're hopeful." And the final attempt is manipulation by alcohol. Get them drunk and you can get a lot more out of them too. But this one does not work. James refuses the offer of a drink. In addition to the manipulation, I think there is a lot of sadness in Maria's dialogue and behavior here too. She seems genuinely disappointed and maybe even a little hurt that he refuses to spend time with her. It is important to remember that James is literally the only other living person Maria has ever met or will ever have any interaction with. She is not necessarily manipulating him because she wants to hurt him, but because she genuinely wants him to stay with her, wants the chance to forge an emotional connection with someone. Anyway, let's move on to the next scene, which takes place in the Moonlight Grove. This scene is also original to the remake. It was added to expand on her character and motivations. This is, I think, in contrast to the previous one, her most sympathetic scene in the story. As you watch, ask yourself, what does this scene add to her character? What do we understand about her now that we would not have otherwise if this scene was left out? Okay, here it is.
There's a story told around these parts. Kind of a local legend. Tells of a woman who was cast out, sentenced to die on an island out on the lake.
To the death.
There was a man in town who fell madly in love with her. And every night, he would sneak out, row across the lake, bringing her food and
Standing
company.
by. At last. To the deck.
And every night,
Control
she
room
would stand
created.
there on the
Unleash
shore,
our wrath.
holding a lit
Our
candle
voices speak
to
as
help him
one.
find his way. But this one night,
Standing by.
a terrible storm broke out.
Hostility research
Caught him out in
complete.
the open, and it blew out the
Phase
candles.
jump underway.
Even in darkness, the man would not give up. He would not turn back.
Is it time? I
So
am
he
the
fought
Unity
against the raging
servant.
waters until finally the lake took him.
Exotics
They
have been
say even
unveiled
then,
by our scryers.
the woman never lost hope.
Exotics have been unveiled by our scryers.
She kept coming out at night,
Exotics have been unveiled by our scryers.
kept lighting the candle
Let the bidding commence.
to bring her beloved home,
Desecrators assault our world.
to lead him to shore.
Your arguments are compelling.
Maria tells
I
a
shall
story
stand
about a
with you.
tragic, undying love. A love that survives even death. A love so powerful that it becomes a legend, inspiring generations of young romantic couples. You can hear a yearning in her voice. It is clear that she wants this. She wants a man who will love her so much that he is willing to flaunt the laws of his people, risk the judgment of his peers, willing to brave the dangerous dark waters of the lake, to travel through terrible storms, all just to reach her. This is who she wants James to be for her. That is why she is so hyper-focused on him, so touchy and pushy. This scene reveals that Maria is not just some conniving, sinister femme fatale. She is also a hopeless romantic. She holds on to this idea of an idealized fairy tale romance that will never come true. And James has no interest in any of this, any interest in her. He acts as if he is irritated by her monologue. He perceives this as a big waste of time. Once again, her attempts at seduction, at getting closer to him, are failing. There is a double irony in the story she tells. On the one hand, this fairy tale describes James' current circumstances. He loves his wife Mary so much that he is willing to go through all these horrific and terrible challenges in Silent Hill just for the near zero chance that he might get to see her again. But on the other hand, this does not describe James at all. His love for his wife was already tested by a terrible challenge, by her long, fatal illness, and he has already failed. By the end of that illness, their relationship had collapsed. Not only did he not die trying to save her, he was the one who killed her because he could not bear the stress and the grief and the resentment anymore. So this idealized perfect romance that Maria is searching for simply does not exist anywhere in this story. The next scene we are going to watch takes place in the hospital, and I think this scene reveals some really important information about what Maria is and how her emotions work. So here it is.
You may speak.
Maria?
Hostility research complete.
The Unity's will be done.
Exotics have been unveiled by our scryers.
Hey. You okay?
I'm sorry.
That's fine. What's going on? Are you hurt?
It's nothing. Probably just a hangover.
You may
Maybe you
speak.
should rest.
Yeah,
Defilers encroach upon us.
okay.
Our time has come. This is our darkest hour. May we live beyond this next conquest. May we live beyond this next conquest.
So comfy.
I'm gonna go look for Laura. I'll be back as soon as I can.
I love the framing of this shot. Maria revealed in darkness, overcome by sickness. She is an amalgamation of James' feelings for and memories of his wife, and of course after her long illness. All of his memories of her are touched by that illness too, and so it manifests in Maria as well. The most fascinating part of this scene is when she lies down on this disgusting, stained mattress in the middle of this decaying, rundown, very frightening hospital, and then says, "Oh, so comfy." And like, no way. There is no way in hell that bed is comfortable. Hospital beds are notoriously uncomfortable even in the best of times, and this is far from the best of times. With this bizarre comment, I think the writers are trying to reveal something about how Maria's emotions work. She is not comfortable because this bed is comfortable. She is comfortable because she is falling into the role that has been laid out for her. By lying down in the hospital bed, she is behaving the correct way as a manifestation of Mary, reliving the part of the sick wife. This is what led me to my theory that Maria's behavior is driven by instinct. She does what feels right to her. She lies down in this bed because, for reasons she probably does not even understand, it gives her pleasure to do so. And I think that is the same reason she is trying so hard to be with James. She is not some master manipulator with a grand, sinister conspiracy. She is a creation with a particular role to fill, and it is not until the end of her story that she finally attempts to break out of that role. That final question, what will you do if you can't find your wife? She is hoping the answer will be that he will stay with her instead. In one of the endings, this wish does come true, but it does not turn out to be as pleasant as she had hoped, and we will discuss that more later. After this scene, James leaves Maria behind in this room while he continues to explore the hospital alone. If you return to her, she keeps asking about Laura. Have you found Laura yet? Where is she? Eventually, the hospital is transformed into a terrifying nightmare world, and this is where James reunites with her. I think this is the scene where Maria's collapse truly begins, where she is set on the downward journey that will end with her character transforming into that hideous monster we talked about earlier. And as you watch, see if you can figure out why. What happens to her here that sets her on the path of self-destruction? Okay, here it is.
You may speak.
James.
Mary!
Civilian
Oh.
structure complete.
Maria, I thought. Sorry.
Control group created.
Anyway, I'm glad you're alive.
Anyway?
Voices speak as one.
What do you mean, anyway? I was almost killed back there. I have never been so scared in my whole life. All you care about is that dead wife of yours. You couldn't care less about me, could you?
No, I just.
Then stay with me.
Any research, dear?
Don't leave me alone again.
Phase jump underway.
You're supposed to take care of me.
Planet
So what
item
about
ready.
Laura?
Mining upgrade complete.
You found her?
None shall survive.
Yeah, but she ran away.
What? Well, we have to find her.
Yeah, you,
What's on your mind?
You really seem to care about that girl.
A colonizable planet
Do you know her?
has been discovered.
As you wish. No mercy.
I'd never met her before.
Harmony research complete.
I just feel sorry for her. She's all alone and... I don't know, for some reason I feel like it's up to me to protect her.
Our time has come.
Maria is extremely relieved to be reunited with James, and at first he is happy to see her too, because he mistakes her for Mary. When he realizes his mistake, he makes no attempt to disguise his disappointment. Through his body language and words, he makes it very obvious that he is not happy to see her, that he does not want her, and she is understandably upset. The only other person in her world, the person she is supposed to be with, just does not care about her well-being. That line, "You're supposed to take care of me," is very telling. From her perspective, James is not fulfilling the role set out for him. He is not seduced by her charms. He is not falling in love with her. He is not protecting her, and still he pulls away. This scene also reveals the nature of her relationship with Laura, why she is so focused on rescuing the girl. It is instinctual. She has this instinct, this feeling that she is supposed to protect her. This is a piece of Mary, genuinely reborn in Maria's psychology. As we will learn later, Mary was something of a surrogate mother to Laura. They had a close relationship. Mary even wanted to adopt her, and these feelings have been passed on to Maria, feelings that James does not know anything about. He had never met Laura. He was not aware of their relationship. This reveals that Maria is more than just a manifestation of his feelings and his memories. There are pieces of the true Mary inside of her too, and it also has to do with loneliness. Laura is left all alone, which is the thing Maria fears most. Her worst case scenario is being left alone in this nightmare world, with no one to care for her, no one to be with. She wants to save this girl she's never even met from that fate. This is Maria at her best, her most benevolent, and it is unfortunate that the town of Silent Hill never allows her to more fully express these feelings. She is destroyed before she ever gets a chance to be a better version of herself. Soon after this scene, Maria is killed by Pyramid Head, and I swear I have seen fans say things like, "Oh, Pyramid Head is such a great guy. He is just helping James out by brutally murdering this defenseless woman in the most grotesque and terrifying and traumatic way possible. He has to show James that she is fake, which is, somehow accomplished by torturing and killing her for no reason." So let's try to look at this story from Maria's perspective. As we see in the Born of a Wish prologue, she wakes up in this empty town full of monsters. She does not know what she is doing here or why she is all alone. She does not understand any of this. She meets James, the only other living person around, not counting the one dude who was in the Baldwin mansion who sent her on a bunch of weird fetch quests and who we're not going to talk about, and she feels some connection to James. She knows she is supposed to be with him. She can feel it, but he keeps pushing her away no matter what she tries. He abandons her, leaves her behind in a nightmare world, makes it clear that he does not care about her when they are reunited. And then, all of a sudden, she is being chased through a labyrinth by this terrifying monster. She does not know what Pyramid Head is or why it wants to hurt her. Silent Hill will not let her escape. So she dies in terror and pain and dread in one of the worst ways possible, never truly understanding the nature of her own existence, why any of this is happening to her, why she is being targeted this way. From Maria's perspective, this is a truly horrific story. Moving forward in her next appearance, we will see a Maria who has transformed. All of her positive qualities, her playfulness, her flirtiness, her protectiveness have vanished. And of course they have. In the exact same way that the town of Silent Hill breaks both Eddie and Angela, the way it turns them onto the paths of paranoia, murder, and suicide, it breaks Maria too. And just like that statue of the woman, it is through no fault of her own. What did she do to deserve this terrible fate? Unlike James, she did not kill anybody. Unlike Eddie, she did not poison some dog. She never hurt anyone. But somehow, by whatever power that rules over Silent Hill's other world, Maria is reborn in the labyrinth. And we are going to watch that scene together now. As we watch, ask yourself, is this even the same person? Do the developers really want us to believe that this is the same Maria who died in the basement underneath the hospital? Okay, here it is.
Maria?
Speak.
Maria! I thought that thing killed you. Are you hurt?
Not at all, silly.
But the thing... It stabbed you. There was blood everywhere.
Stabbed me?
Unleash our
What do you
wrath.
mean?
It chased us to the elevator and then...
James, what are you talking about?
Just before. Don't you remember?
James? Honey? Did something happen to you? After we got separated in that long hallway? Are you confusing me with someone else? You were always so forgetful. Remember that time in the hotel?
Harmony
Maria?
research complete.
You said you took everything. But you forgot that videotape we made. I wonder if it's still there.
Unleash our wrath.
How do you know about that?
Complete.
Aren't you Maria?
I'm not your Mary.
So you are Maria.
I am. If you want me to be.
All I want from you is an answer.
Doesn't matter who I am. I am here for you, James.
Hostility research complete.
See?
May speak.
I'm real. Don't you want to touch me?
I will deliver your order personally.
I don't know.
The Unity's will be done.
Well,
Commerce upgrade.
if you happen to make up your mind,
Another planet joins the Unity.
Our voices speak as one.
I'll be waiting.
It has long been my theory that this is not the same Maria as before. That character is dead and will stay dead. Just look at the way her behavior has changed. Notice how she seems to have completely forgotten about the existence of Laura. The way her memories of what happened underneath the hospital seem incomplete or incorrect. So yes, this is a new Maria, a new manifestation of James' emotions. And because of the trauma he has experienced during his time in Silent Hill, the terror, the confusion, the pain, his feelings are becoming more twisted and more warped and more disconnected from reality. And so this new version of Maria becomes more twisted and more warped too. She barely even behaves like a real person anymore. She has no reaction whatsoever to being trapped in a prison inside some bizarre nightmare labyrinth. She just sits there humming to herself as if, whoopity-doopity, everything is fine. The line between Maria and Mary has also been blurred to the point where it is difficult to tell them apart. The character switches from one to the other, from speaking in Mary's voice to speaking in Maria's voice. She has the memories of two different people in her head. I also want to discuss the framing of this shot. In film, just about any time you see a character through bars like this, that is a visual language which is meant to communicate to an audience that this character is trapped, not literally, but metaphorically somehow. A character trapped in a prison cell is not a powerful character, not a character in control of her own fate, not a character with the freedom to choose her own path. The visual language of this scene shows us that Maria is not the mastermind behind this plot. She is just as trapped in this nightmare as James is, who we also see framed between prison bars in this scene. Her dialogue here, "I'm not Mary, I'm whoever you want me to be, I'm here for you," reveals a lack of a solid identity, of individual personhood. I don't think Maria even knows who she is anymore. All she knows is that she exists for James' sake. Her entire existence revolves around him, around his desire for her. She has lost so much of the personality that defined her earlier. And in this scene, James' defenses finally begin to weaken. He can no longer resist her advances. Before, he was easily able to say no to her, to stay loyal to his wife. But by this point in the story, Silent Hill is breaking him down too. After navigating the labyrinth and reaching the other side of that prison cell, James finds Maria already dead, apparently killed by the same disease that killed his wife. This version of Maria only lived for a couple hours, if even that long. Most insects are granted longer lives than she had. She has a truly doomed existence. At first, James is overcome with emotion upon seeing her dead body. He lovingly caresses her hand, but then his grief slowly dissipates, as if he is realizing, wait a second, this is not my wife. I do not love this woman. And just like that, he forgets her and moves on, once again focused on finding Mary instead. In the end, Maria does not even have someone to grieve for her after she is dead. When she